this point, I'm just gonna pretend we've already gone over how awesome all the Capcom Disney games were. Because frankly, we have, in like many reviews. I mean, for my tastes, there may have never been a more fruitful partnership in gaming than that of Capcom, the makers of Mega Man, and Disney, the makers of my childhood dreams, and teenage flashbacks, and adulthood. Well, you get the idea. I really like TaleSpin. So here's the thing though, in addition to doing some of the best NES games ever, Capcom brought a lot of those games to the Game Boy. And the impressive thing is just how close the Game Boy versions are to those NES classics. I mean seriously, check out our reviews of the NES and Game Boy versions of Darkwing Duck. It's crazy, it's ridiculous how much of the experience they were able to recreate on the Game Boy. And it's the same story with TaleSpin. So you play as Baloo the bear, and yes, for those unfamiliar with TaleSpin, that's the same Baloo as from the movie, The Jungle Book. See, back in the 90s, Disney did this thing where they'd take a group of characters and then place them in a new setting for a television series. TaleSpin was one of those. And then Capcom made games based on them, so, I mean, it was a win-win situation. Anyway, in TaleSpin, Baloo is a pilot, and that's what Capcom used to make their TaleSpin game a different game than their other Disney games. Where games like Rescue Rangers and DuckTales and Darkwing Duck were platformers, TaleSpin is a flight game. I mean, I'd call it a shoot-'em-up, but you kind of need more than one bullet to be a shoot-'em-up. That's part of the deal, if you want to shoot 'em up. So here's how it works. You fly around, you collect stuff, you shoot stuff. But, I mean, more often than not, you really just avoid stuff. One of the defining elements of TaleSpin is you can only have one bullet on the screen at a given time. So once you shoot, you can't shoot again until your prior shot hits something, or goes off the screen. And as infuriating as that can be, it does make the game feel unique. Thing is, much as you might want to, you can't really play this game like you would a traditional shoot-'em-up flight game, because it just isn't one. You know, another unique thing about TaleSpin is that the scrolling isn't automatic, which is to say, you can go backwards. And this was actually kind of groundbreaking for the time. You could actually flip your plane upside down and then fly back the way you came, to the left. And that was a stark contrast to most 2D flight games at the time, in which the screen was scrolling to the right automatically. So there was some interesting stuff happening in TaleSpin. And actually, what I think is really cool about this game is how, even though it's a totally different genre than Capcom's previous Disney games, it still has the same feel. The game's design has the same Mega Man light blueprint that defines its predecessors. The enemies have that Mega Man look, and the levels progress basically the same way. They're all divided into sections, and then they lead to a boss battle against a cool-looking robot. So despite playing totally differently, it still feels like a Capcom Disney game, with solid graphics and solid sound, even on the Game Boy. And I guess that's the take-home lesson for a lot of Capcom's Disney games. They were amazing, even on the Game Boy. Now obviously, if you do have to choose, TaleSpin is a better game on the NES. But it's a great Game Boy game too. And you know, it's another testament to its platform. Despite that awful puke green screen, the Game Boy was an impressive piece of hardware and could do some pretty cool things, even flying upside down. It's TaleSpin for the original Game Boy. And a big thanks to our friend Uli from Germany for sending it in via airplane. I hope it didn't fly upside down.